David.
Well, here now to react is Ned Ryan. He's a Republican strategist and the founder and CEO of American Majority Action. He is also a former presidential writer for President G.W. Bush. I guess, Ned, the question is where this story came from. And I would just throw one out there. Adam Schiff, the Democrat who's on the House Intel Committee, has suggested to the press on several occasions that a subpoena is forthcoming to Deutsche Bank. And why? He says because Russia may have laundered money through the Trump organization. Now, he throws this charge out there. Maybe he does it in an undisclosed way or as a secondary source. Don't quote me on this, but you guys can run with it. And then throws out the idea that the Trump organization is laundering money through a Russian bank or vice versa, and it gets in the public conversation, right?
This to me is, here we go again. Here comes the opposition party yet again Friday with a false report from Brian Ross and ABC that candidate Trump somehow instructed General Flynn. Now we have this report, the Deutsche Bank records being subpoenaed. I'll tell you this, David, there's nothing there with Deutsche Bank, even if they did subpoena it. So I'm not concerned about it. But here we go again with the opposition party. They're not even trying to be objective. They're not even trying to get their facts straight. They have Trump derangement syndrome, and it's like they're losing complete grasp of reality and what their role really is in society. Right. I want an honest press. I want a free press. Well, I want a free press. I want an honest press as well.
But the point is that they are so susceptible to politicians that hate Trump, that throw stuff out there. They just want the stuff to go out there, whether it's the charge of collusion with Russia or now that they were laundering money with Russian banks. You throw the charge out there, you let it settle, and you see whether it creates a stink or not.
This, to me, again, is irresponsible. I think what we've seen this last year, David, has been one of the greatest political tantrums in the history of politics, from the left, from Democrats, from the mainstream media. Here we go again. At some point, they have to understand people think you're fake news. They don't think you're actually being objective in reporting the facts. At some point, people are just saying you have no credibility left. Right. So I think moving forward, I think obviously we've got to take real pause when, Brian Ross reports something like that. You know what? I've gotten to the point, David, I've been doing enough TV this last year. Anytime I hear something like that come out, I'm like, you know what? Let's wait 24 hours and see how the story changes, because guess what? It's probably going to change radically. So I'd encourage those listening, when you hear something like this come out, take a deep breath, because the mainstream media has just been missing stories all year.
Well, and let's move on to another story which kind of relates to this. It's a story of the man who's running for the Senate seat in Alabama, Judge Roy Moore. Right. Now, different polls show that there's essentially a dead heat right there. I don't know who's going to win. But the fact is that the public, which had been, when the first reports came out of allegations that he dated or propositioned younger women when he was in his 30s, that in fact they now are so questioned, everything that the press comes out with, that the public's saying, we're not going to believe any of these reports. We're going to go with Judge Roy Moore no matter what the allegations are.
Well, a poll just came out a couple days ago, David, that showed 83% of likely Republicans either thought these were definitely false or likely false, these allegations that have been brought against Roy Moore. At the end of the day, the people of Alabama are going to choose. I will say this, David, these are serious allegations, but it used to be in our country, something was false until proven true. Now it's almost as though we're saying this is true until you can prove it false. Whatever happened to due process, and again, until these allegations are actually proven, I do think Roy Moore is going to win next week. And I will say this. If the allegations are proven true, he wins, is in the Senate, then I think it's his obligation to step down. But at the same time, David, where is the moral obligation for somebody that we have photographic evidence of essentially assaulting a sleeping woman? And I'm talking about Al Franken. He's still sitting in the Senate. So how can somebody say that Roy Moore can't be in the Senate?
It really undermines the stone throwers at Judge Moore. It doesn't excuse anybody, but it undermines their position. That photo, which is going to be seen time and again as long as Al Franken's in the Senate. Ned, we got to leave it at that. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David.